Morning, folks. Almost plus 10 today out in Canada here. Beautiful day out. Gonna do a YouTube video today. Get the old GoPro out. Shop's looking a little constipated at the moment. The coveted staple furniture of many Latin American restaurants and beyond, I'm sure. Flood proof, bar fight proof. Pretty good stuff. Anyways, got the old XL back here. XL600. Got the studs on there, all looking spiky and whatnot. And I'm gonna put the old GoPro on her and go do a video out in the bush on should you buy a Harley-Davidson. Are Harley-Davidsons a good bike? Should you buy one? All these pertinent questions. Anyways, these make great tables, by the way. They're rock solid. They're a little rustic. They look okay once you paint them. You know, spruce them up a bit. Everything looks good with a lick of paint, doesn't it? Squirrely in the snow. It doesn't like getting into the tracks. If you already got tracks, man, it doesn't like that because it just pulls it in the front wheel and you're always correcting and trying not to fall over. But man, I'm full of snow. I should have worn my snowsuit or something. It's a nice day out. It's like 7 degrees up in Canada, southern Canada, southern Alberta, and amazingly enough, it's 7 degrees out, 7 or 12 or something like that. It's warm enough to be just in a shirt riding a dirt bike in the end of January 2024. In the past, talked to people who lived here for the last 100 years, and I'll tell you, they have weird Christmases before where people were playing golf. Back in '99 was another year like that. That's airtight, eh? Oh, cabin going on, little bunkhouse, cattle. Let's have a look. Nice and quiet back here. It's right in the pines. Got a little bed, sort of like a little prison cell, except you're free to leave. So that's pretty cool, eh? Close her up. Hear that? That's like a hermetically sealed unit right there. Let's put the new decking on. Pretty crude, but yeah, it works good. Got it down at local mill. They're all different sizes, a little different thicknesses. The cuts are a little crooked. You know, you start looking here and there, it's all very rustic, as they say today. That's cool. There's another little wire wheel. Great tables with lick of paint, right? Sun's out, beautiful day, out in the pines. Beautiful. Man, it's peaceful out here. There's a little cabin I built last year. It's a little bunkhouse. Sure beats tenting. 10 above, why light a fire, you might ask? Improves morale. Anytime you light a fire like this, man, it just changes the whole dynamics of where you are. It's warm, it's comfortable. And there's something about a crackling fire. It probably goes back to our primordial days where, you know, living in a cave and you light up a fire. Man, you know, something about a fire. And there's a lot of brush around here that needs to be burnt too. We cleared it out and then there was all this brush left over, but in the summer it's tinder dry out here, so I don't like fires. Right now it's snowy and wet, so it's a good time to burn a little brush in the fire pit. Anyways, video, Harley-Davidson. Why Harley-Davidson? Should you buy Harley-Davidson? Are they good bikes? Well, it depends. It's not exactly so much straightforward. There is a ton of marketing and testosterone involved in Harley Davidson. Marketing, second to none, studied in business courses around the world. They are so good at it. I mean, between presenting the product, which, I mean, a Harley Davidson looks sexy just sitting still, dripping with chrome, beautiful paint. The styling is very, very nice, very classic. It's hard to beat that. I mean, they're so good at it. It's they're just so good at it that way. When you buy into a Harley Davidson, you're not really just buying the Harley. You're buying a whole lifestyle attached to it. There's many people indoctrinated into the marketing, and so it clouds the question of whether or not it's a good bike. You have to understand, going back a bit, 1900s, Harley Davidson was just basically a bicycle with a motor stuffed into it, as many fledgling motorcycle companies back in the day were. 1900s, there was a plethora of motorcycle companies all around the world, mainly Britain, Germany, Italy, the States. There was so many companies. The economic crash of the 30s really thinned the herd. 1945, the 39 to 45 World War II really devastated the motorcycle companies. There was a few left over: Velocette, Ariel, Rose Superior, Hesketh. But very few survive to this day, as we know the motorcycle brands to be. The big ones: Ducati, Cagiva, Honda, Suzuki, Harley Davidson, Triumph. Even Norton fizzled out. Norton, BSA fizzled out. They do little boutique motorcycles now. Some of these companies, Ariel, I think, is one of them. But, they don't really amount to much in the total volume of motorcycles. The reason that this history is important to understand about Harley Davidson is that you have to appreciate that there was a divergence in motorcycle culture in North America to Europe. European culture dictated that after the war, the place was leveled, there was a lot of rationing, and out of necessity, people rode a motorcycle, and a lot of people glued a sidecar to the side of it, and it became like family transportation. They couldn't afford a car, whereas in America, by the 50s, cars were pretty damn common, and so motorcycles got kind of relegated to being a toy, something you just done on the weekend sort of thing for amusement. And so the purpose for riding a motorcycle is totally different in North America. The money in a motorcycle isn't in the little budget 125, it's in the Goldwing flagship models, BMW K1600s, and the big Harley Davidsons. In a place like North America where we have winters, of course, and nobody really needs a motorcycle, to be completely honest, between the crazy traffic and the winters, everybody just vouches for a car. It's just the way it's always been. So to sell a high dollar motorcycle, there has to be some pretty good marketing to go along with it, and that's what you see with Harley Davidson. Matter of fact, a lot of times you walked into the dealership, and I remember at one point the local dealership used to have something called Lifestyle Center, and so when you bought a Harley Davidson, you could buy all the paraphernalia and regalia that goes with doing the weekend parade and imitating something approximating looking like something out of the Village People. There was hog chapters you could join. So there's also a big social element, as usually is with motorcycles all around the world. That's what makes motorcycles cool and segregates them from cars, is that there's a social aspect to motorcycles. It's like music. Everybody likes motorcycles. So there's that. So hog chapters were created, and so Harley Davidson done this whole production, along with the likes of, things like Disneyland and Coca-Cola and, American flag waving. There's a lot of patriotism that goes with it. And the patriotism's kind of interesting. There was a time when men were returning from Vietnam, disenfranchised men they were shell-shocked. They were the product of what seemed like an endless war in Vietnam at the time, and they came back, and Harley Davidsons were cheap on the street, and you could kind of drop out of society, buy a Harley Davidson for really cheap, chop it up, make it into like a kind of a chopper thing, and join the brotherhood. There were clubs that were formed, and so you'd hang out in clubs and go to parties and hang out and camp and whatever they'd done. But it was like a support group for men coming back from the war. That's what it was about. Sonny Barger, Hell's Angels. He founded, I think Sonny Barger is the fellow that founded the Hell's Angels, which is one of the more prominent, well-known motorcycle clubs throughout the world now. The Mongols and the Banditos and all these motorcycle clubs, but the roots are based in that history, from Vietnam, and so it wasn't just the marketing that was, ingrained in the culture of motorcycles in North America, but it was actually a product of the war in the 70s, and so Harley-Davidson emulated that. They started building feet forward designs and chopper like things, and to capture the market, right? You thought that's what people would want, but at the 70s they were building those Ironhead Sportster things, and they were just terrible. The 1200 shovel heads and the oh my god, I had a cousin that just would he was a diehard, wouldn't drive anything but a knucklehead, and ended up killing him. You just can't drive that stuff in modern day traffic. The brakes suck, the handling sucks, and those bikes, the shovel heads, were horribly unreliable. If you had an old Ironhead, you'd be lucky if you make it down to the coffee shop without something falling off or they're breaking down. And that's the ugly truth about it. After 84, though, they came out with the Evolution motor, and that was when I think Willie G. Davidson purchased it back from the American Machine Foundry, AMF, who was a company that kind of bailed him out and kept Harley-Davidson alive because they made Frisbees, vacuum cleaners, and then, of course, Harley-Davidson because he bought the company, but really kind of, by most people's opinion, ran it into the ground. And they were a terrible bike. They were awful. But, Willie got it back and brought the company up, and they came out with the Evolution motor in 84. And after 84, they were really good. They were actually really good motorcycles. The 883 1200 and the 1340 Big Twin. The Sportster's always being kind of relegated to being a girl's bike, but it wasn't a girl's bike because it sits high. So if you're a person of smaller stature, you'd probably find the Big Twin is easier to ride because it sits lower and your feet can touch the ground, which is always a common favorable trait for, say, trail riding. If you got an XT250 compared to a KTM 250 EXC, where it sits like you almost need a ladder to get on the bloody thing, and most of trail riding is slow riding, so you need to put your feet down a lot because that front end's going squirrely, right? So having your feet planted on the ground is definitely changes the way you feel about a motorcycle. So if you're a beginner out there, it's really something to consider. Sit on the bike. Can your feet touch the ground? It's so overlooked. I don't know why that is, but it's the difference between hating your motorcycle and actually enjoying riding the motorcycle. It becomes a thing you can actually manage. So anyways, 883 1200 Sportster, good bikes. 883 was totally gutless, still is gutless, but good on fuel. But the drawback was it had a small tank, so you couldn't go that far. So it was good on fuel, but it had a small tank. 1200 was had a little more oomph to it for sure. In the 1340 again, rubber mounted swing arms, not much to say for the handling on the Big Twins. They were pretty horrendous. 140 kilometers an hour around a corner mountain road, pretty hairy, especially in wet surfaces. The back end would start to flex, of course, and if you ever look at a frame on a Big Twin, it's just like great steel, by the way. The parts they put on these motorcycles are really good quality. There was a couple people, Peter, what was his name? Peter Kay? Or Fonda? I can't remember his name. He had a Big Twin, went around the world with his girlfriend or wife. He put 580,000 kilometers on an old Big Twin, Heritage, or Electric Glide, or whatever it was. 580,000 kilometers, visited every country in the world, but really interesting because he kept a list of all the things that went wrong with the motorcycle, which wasn't a big list by any means. So kind of a testament to how good the bikes were. With that said, there was another guy, David Bart, the amputee from Vietnam, rode around the world on a shovelhead 1200, I think it was. And I imagine, though, to be fair, he was kind of a handy fellow. It kept that old Harley alive. There was another guy, Doug, from Bulgaria. He rode around Russia as well on a something called a Dirtster. He turned a Sportster into a dirt bike slash street bike, and then he drove around on an old, I think it was an Indian chopper actually. So you can go around the world on anything really if you're handy enough. But to be fair, there was a big raven flying overhead. You could hear its wings. Massive birds, smart birds, by the way. The Evolutions were really a good bike up until, they came out at a certain point. You had some cam chain issues when you had the twin cam thing going on. You put tensioners in there, and there was some problems with that, so you had to fork out like $1,200 to get the thing righted again. But once you've done it, I mean, they were good bikes. They were good bikes. Now, I'm not talking about the newer bikes, like 2024 models, like the Pan American 1250, or even the Livewire, or the V-Rod, which was a collaboration with Porsche. They made the engine in the V-Rod, and that's a totally different thing. That's not your traditional Harley-Davidson. A lot of purists would frown at the V-Rod and frown at the Pan American, but the Pan American 1250 is actually a proper motorcycle. It's by all standards. And the new Sportster too, I guess he stuffed that 1250 in the Sportster. So great bike, man. Fast, good brakes, good handling. But I'm talking about the old air-cooled pushrod V-twin Evolution motors. Those are the kind of things we're dealing with, because they're plentiful on the used market. There was a craze about 15 years ago with Harley-Davidson, and everybody was getting into the hog chapters and dressing up like the village people. There was Orange County choppers. There was a plethora of absolutely useless choppers that were built. The list is too lengthy to go through, but they were basically unrideable. I mean, they were terrible bikes. But anyways, done great for Harley-Davidson sales. And but now, as time has marched on, you're seeing a glut of Harley-Davidsons on the market. They're being exported around the world. Secondhand bikes you find in the States, and they're going for a really good price, really reasonable. So if you're okay with an old dinosaur bike, and you're willing to drive it like a tractor, you'll love the Harley-Davidson. They're actually really good bikes, from a rider's perspective. Like if you were buying something to go down to Mexico on, for instance, you want a 1200 Sportster, you can pick one up for like $2-3 grand, low mileage, put a windshield on it, some bags, good bike, nothing wrong with it. I mean, cheap as chips. It's sure cheaper than a R1200 GS. And let's face it, if you're going down to Mexico, you're not working for National Geographic. You're not going to discover lost tribes in the Yucatan Peninsula on your and you need a dirt bike to navigate. I mean this is crazy cuckoo stuff. So most of the roads are paved if you're going down to Mexico. So if you want a cheap Mexico bike, 1200 Sportsters, just excellent. And so this video is mainly for, like, if you're a beginner and you're trying to wade through all the propaganda and the patriotism and the flag waving, the marketing, man. It's like Tesla. Tesla's the same thing. They've torn a page out of the Harley-Davidson book, and you don't just buy a Tesla. You buy into this cult, like, you're saving the planet and the electrification of the planet and the whole 9 yards. I mean, let's face it, a Tesla's kind of an expensive vehicle, and so was a Harley-Davidson back in the day, and they still are. I mean, the new Pan American up in Canada is going for like 32 or something, maybe used at 26. And you see a few trade-ins here and there, but man, that's a lot of cake for a motorcycle. I mean, 30 grand for a motorcycle, you don't even get a roof or a stereo or anything. You just get two wheels and you're pretty vulnerable. So, it's a tough sell, man. It's a tough sell, and so hence the marketing. So good for them. I mean, I'm not slagging Tesla or slagging Harley. I'm just saying that, there's a lot of marketing that goes with it. But so the point of the video is that to wade through it, and if you're just kind of wondering, is it actually a good motorcycle? And the answer is yeah, they're great motorcycles, actually. In terms of reliability in general, the Sportster 1200 883 and the 1340 after 1984, really good bikes. If you're in the market for one, get a stock one, shop around, low mileage, one owner, two owners, service history. You can get a great deal on a Harley right now because there's a glut in the market. And the reason there's a glut in the market is because the demographics that they've been chasing in the last, 20, 30 years is dying. They're in the geriatric stage. A lot of people are walkers. A lot of people are passing on. A lot of people are just
too old to ride motorcycles anymore. That the traditionally been supporting Harley in the 80s, 90s, 2000s. And that's precisely why they're selling trikes now. They're selling these 3-wheel trikes for ungodly sums, like $60,000 plus for a 3-wheeler trike that doesn't handle worth a damn. Really unwieldy things. So the Can-Am Spider's a different thing, that has 2 wheels in the front and they handle much differently. But when you have 1 wheel in the front and you have a traditional motorcycle front end that's catering to all the stuff in the back, the weight, it doesn't lend itself well to good handling. So, you know, there's that. I mean, there's a little trunk in the back where you can put your walker in, and $60,000 for a trike. That's a lot of cake for sure. They used to sell these Survey cars in the 50s, 60s, and they were for meter maids and police officers doing little patrols around town, and mail post people in the States, and you know, they were kind of a utilitarian thing, and you know, now they're trying to do it for $60,000, and man, sign of the times for sure. So the demographics is slowly fading, and that's one of the reasons I think why they're getting into the 1250 platform, and you know, kind of up in their game, trying to capture a younger market. And when I talk about the Harleys too, they made a lot of Harleys, like they owned MV Augusta for a while there. They used to partner up with Aramachi and the Italian company back in the 70s, 80s. It was a little crappy 2-stroke dirt bike. I'm not talking about those other Harleys or the 750, 500 little baby V-rods that are made in India. I don't know much about them, to be honest. I never see them. I don't know if many people even bought them. I don't know anything much about the live wire, the electric bike, and who's another Harley, the Buell Blast they had for a while. I've had a few of those, and they're okay bikes, but they're kind of dinosaurish too, a little crude, rough around the edges. They kind of remind me of the new Enfield. The new Enfields they're making, the aluminum motored Enfields, are kind of got a clunky old dinosaur feel to them, but they're good beginners bike. They're good to learn on if you ever get a good deal on a Buell Blast. Nothing really wrong with them. You know, they're okay. The other thing I was going to mention that's really a plus about Harley-Davidson if you live in North America is the parts availability is just so good. Like JP Cycles, Drag Specialties, what's the other one? Screaming Eagle. I mean, they all sort of not really partnered up with Harley-Davidson, but I mean they work in conjunction with a lot of manufacturers to reproduce parts, and then Harley themselves at the dealer, they're generally pretty good for getting parts. I've never had too many issues, like to the point where, like, if you have a Drag Specialties catalog, it's my understanding that you can build a whole 1957 panhead out of the catalog. You can order the engine, the wheels, the frame, seat, whatever you want. You can actually build. Somebody once told me, a friend once told me, I don't know if this is true, so maybe I shouldn't repeat it, but I will anyway, that there's more panheads running around France than were ever produced in Milwaukee because of the aftermarket parts availability. And that could be true. I don't know. If anybody knows the truth on that, please hit me up in the comments section. I'm going to do an update on that KZ750 I'm working on to get it ready to go to Mexico. And kind of not long overdue. I mean, I'm doing pretty good actually. I've done a bike every month on average since December. That ZX9 and then the ZX6 and then the KZ750, plus taking care of life and fixing cars and trucks and my own trucks and quads and taking care of life and all the peripheral stuff. So I think I'm doing okay. And plus making these videos, which has been a bit of a learning curve for sure with video editing and whatnot. And then I got this little Ninja 250. I done a quick video on that. And then the next video I'm going to do is on fork seals, which seems to be like a constant headache for motorcycle people around the world. Why they leak, how to fix them, what's the deal with them, what to look for in the seals, how to take them apart. And I'm doing this old Goldwing. It's a 1981 Goldwing. Hilarious story on that one. Old 1981 GL 1100 actually rode off an Audi, so a new Audi. So stick around. I'm gonna do a quick video on that, and hopefully you find it interesting, and hopefully you find some of this information helpful. You know, from an experienced gentleman like myself. So anyways, hope that helps, and have a good night or day depending on where you are in the world, and see you again soon. Ciao.